Okay.
Got it.
All live on YouTube, and I think we just have Corey should be joining us in a minute. And then I'll turn it over to you, Paul.
Okay. So it's been a while, but I'm glad we're meeting because I'm excited about getting this project off and running. So we might as well move along here and get an approval of the minutes from our last meeting, which was November 18th, 2020. I'm going to need a mover. Matt, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
And Jamie?
Actually, sorry, Paul, I don't mean to jump in. I just realized I made an error. It should be March 10th. I had transferred it over, so you just have to take off the top part on the minutes. My apologies.
Okay, I think the movers in the seconder stand.
And it was Matt and Jamie?
Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
in favor? Good. Okay. So, business arising. Virginia, I guess we'll let you take it from here. Matt and I are familiar with the report.
So, so I just included the report for everybody's reference. I don't know, Travis is joining the committee as the tourism rep.
Okay.
Previously, as you know, Jennifer King-Callan was on. I think, Travis, do you know everybody? I don't know if you've met Jamie yet. I think that may...
Amy, you look very familiar, and I'm sure we've encountered one another, but it's been a while.
Yeah, so one of the action items was to send an update report to council so that they were aware of where we were at with the project. So that was done at the end of March last year. So yeah, that was just reference material.
Okay. And it was a good report, and I think for the most part, the council is fully versed on it and looking forward to this getting off the ground. Which I guess if there's no other comments regarding or questions regarding the report, it does lead us into the next. Are there any questions regarding that presentation? No. Which brings us to the budget update. And Virginia and I had a brief conversation. I have to apologize because I understood that when we were in budget deliberations, I pulled this item from supplemental and we voted on it. And I thought at that point that it was a done deal because we had unanimous support for it. But Virginia, you're saying there's a little bit more to it than that?
Well, yeah, so I thought that it was approved as well. So when I had requested the account code so that we could, as we start to move forward with purchasing materials and getting the panels created,
Right.
I was, finance let me know that it wasn't approved, that it was a straw poll and that it was pulled to be included as an item to be funded through gas tax. So we had to, Brent, and we had to go back and watch the council, that portion of the council.
Yeah.
And got Rachel involved. She took a look at it. So yeah, originally I did think that we were good to go.
So Rachel is confirmed by virtue of watching the video that it was agreed that it would be funded through the gas tax?
That it was, I don't want to, I'm just going to pull up the email, so that it would be
Sure.
brought forward for inclusion in Shelley's report that was, I think, going to be coming on January 31st was the tentative date. I don't know if...
So that would be Monday.
Yeah, I don't know if it's happening then or if it's going to happen in February. So that's the part I'm not sure about because I
Yeah.
haven't seen the council package yet.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to put you on the spot. It's just, I do know that at some point, either at budget deliberation or before that meeting, I asked a question about I asked staff to find out exactly what projects would qualify under the gas tax, and staff was going back to look to see what would qualify, but I do not recall when we pulled that supplemental item, when we were voting on it, that it was understood that it was going to be fine. I assumed that it was just automatically good to go. Matt, can you jump? Do you recall that, Matt, at all?
I vaguely recall the high level discussion we had, and I think it was generally, we've got a bunch of stuff we all want to see funded, and
Right.
we've got the extra money from the gas tax funding. So what are the projects, you know, that you absolutely want to see on the list? And the splash pad, I think, was the first one.
Okay.
And this was another one, or I'm gathering from what Virginia's reminding me of,
Yeah.
that this was probably another one. So I would expect it's going to be on Shelley's list to be funded, because I think the discussion was that we wanted this done.
Yes. Yeah, and that's all, and that's how I recalled it. So that's fine. I like I say, I just maybe I misunderstood. So we'll wait to see, I guess, what or maybe, yeah, we'll wait and see what Shelley has to report. Hopefully it's on Monday's meeting.
Yes, yeah, and again, I don't know, I haven't seen the agenda package, but I was able to pull up Rachel's email, and it said her understanding was the straw vote was to put the St. Mary's River Heritage Walk plaques on a priority list of unfunded capital projects, which could be eligible for gas tax funding.
Okay, well, let's leave it at that then. Okay. Virginia, is there anything else then at this point that needs to be discussed regarding the budget update? I guess we're on a holding pattern right now. I mean, we've got approval from council. It's simply a matter, it sounds like it's simply a matter of waiting to see how it's actually going to be funded, because it's been approved by council.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Sure.
And it's actually to Virginia. And Virginia, you may have already mentioned this, but I missed it. What was the budget request to council? How much cash are we talking here?
$12,500.
12,500. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's not a lot, but every amount matters. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not, actually, I'm just gonna go back. It's between that and 15. It's not, it's
Yeah,
a
it's not
pretty
much.
minimal amount.
Yeah.
Like it's a smaller amount,
Yeah.
but needed in order to proceed with getting the panels created.
Yeah. Okay, let's leave it at that. Hopefully, like I say, we'll find something out on Monday. If December the 31st is the date that they're coming forward with this, we'll wait and see.
December
Okay,
31st was last year, Paul.
sorry, January 31st. Come on, Matt. I'm retired. I have bonanza brain.
You're gonna have to brush up on that calendar.
Yes, yes. Okay. So, Virginia, anything else on that?
No, not for budget.
Okay. So determine number C, or letter C, determine number of panels and general concepts content. Excuse me, before you begin, did you get my email today?
I saw that you sent one. I was in interviews all afternoon, so I haven't had a chance to read it yet.
Okay, well, let me just simply say that one suggestion that I came up with was that we include, and Dawn might be able to help us here, is I didn't see it anywhere, and if it's in the information's in there, I apologize, but having something to do with what the waterfront looked like prior to its redevelopment in the 60s. So we could, there's information regarding the types of businesses and the general condition of the waterfront, and then we went through redevelopment. And Dawn, if memory serves me correctly here, we actually won an award for our waterfront redevelopment. That could all be part of panel information if we've got that information.
Yeah, we have some really good photographs of the community back in the late 50s and the 60s before redevelopment occurred. That award actually was from the Canadian Urban Institute, which is
Yes.
a very influential organization in a lot of ways. And I have to tell you, I'm kind of disappointed that everybody just kind of blew over it.
Yes.
And that was not a function of the mayor or anybody who is currently on council. Would you like to see the award? It's very impressive. One sec here.
Yes, get us the award. See, this is going to inspire us as we move forward.
I think it's going to inspire Dawn's writing of this part of the panel.
I would
Absolutely.
certainly. I was the only person that went to Toronto to accept this award. I went and accepted this award on behalf of the city. This is the award. It's from the Canadian Urban Institute. Okay. And it says 2014 Canadian Urban Institute Brownie Award. Now, that's a very positive thing, getting a Brownie Award. This is a national award, I'll let you know. For excellence in project development, Sault Ste. Marie waterfront revitalization.
To me,
So, I mean, that's an impressive award from a national
Absolutely.
body. That's huge. I mean, they spent the last 2 days, they've been putting a virtual summit on downtown redevelopment. I've watched huge chunks of it. It's just outstanding the work they do.
see, so I, for what it's worth, I think that's at least a couple of few panels worth of information.
But since you guys weren't here in 2014, you don't get like, can you tell I'm a little miffed that the city didn't recognize it appropriately?
Absolutely, it should have. I'm miffed that we don't do enough communicating about the good things that happen in this town. That's why we're having a heritage walk.
Right.
Good.
Would you like to see another award? I don't mean to take up your whole meeting here, Paul. I'll be quick.
Well, listen, if it's panel worthy, go ahead.
Well,
Oh,
again,
you're getting that one. I'm gonna chastise Paul for, he was there in 2014.
Shut up, man.
Come on, Paul.
I didn't know about it until 2 years ago, when I had my regular meetings with Dawn to find out what was happening in the city, Matt.
you can't really see this. This is actually a more current award. It's because it's on a piece of glass of some sort. It's from the Spinal Cord Injury Ontario. They were so impressed with the work that we'd done up here to assist people who are disabled with improving accessibility. They gave us their 2019 Municipal Community Partner Award, and we made the front cover of their magazine.
Beautiful.
It's an excellent article in there. It talks about all the neat stuff that we have done, not that we are doing. I guess some of it we're still doing, but we have done. It's very impressive. And I think we get, like, again, this is a provincial organization and they're standing up and going, wow, of all the municipalities in Ontario, man, you guys are great. We're going to give you an award.
Dawn,
And you never hear about it.
Dawn,
I should take out an ad, eh? What do you think?
well, listen, we should listen. I don't want to deviate too much. I think we should buy a billboard on Bay Street and have fast facts every month about the good things that happen in Sault Ste. Marie, and everybody could read it when they drive home. But Dawn, by virtue of the power vested in me, I'm granting you the privilege of creating at least 4 panels of information about those developments on the waterfront and the awards we won.
How about I summarize the one from the Canadian Urban Institute? How about that?
Yeah, I think you were tagged with waterfront development, and I think you volunteered for Mariner's Compass.
I did? Oh my
Yes.
God. Okay.
Just,
I thought we were going to go through this list and narrow them down because we had too many. Like,
well, there's definitely crossover. So as we get into the panel stuff, I can show you where the crossover is with the other tours. And I don't know, we want to make sure we're not duplicating and saying the same stuff for all of them. So.
Okay, to move this meeting along, I simply want to say that I sent you some websites regarding geology of the region. I'll be happy to read through them, summarize 20 or 30 points that we could potentially use for panels.
Perfect.
Continue on.
Okay, so just with regards to the research, I'm just going to bring up the Excel, like the sheet that I sent out that kind of captured the different tours that are already in place, as well as the ones that we had identified.
Okay,
So everybody should be able to see the screen in a second.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So on the one side, we have the spots that were created as part of the tourism tour, which was the waterfront. We have a stroll down Queen and the Sioux Rapids. So the stroll down Queen basically covers off the fur trade era. So it really does a few pieces at the Old Stone House, moves all the way down to covers the Algonquin, all the way to the Memorial Tower, hitting historic spots as you move along. So a number of those perspectives for Old Stone House are covered off. The Sioux Rapids really focuses, and that map that I shared focuses their spots between the canal and over towards the mill market, around the power dam, the train station, the clerk properties. So it covers those sections off very well through all the history they're telling. And then we have tourism spots. So you can see there is some crossover. So they do touch on the Mariner's Compass in the Clerk Park, John Rosewell Park spot for the tourism tour. Again, none of these tours have panels. They're just the online app that you can use to get the information and learn more about the spot as you walk. Okay. So what I did in this grid, if you can see, the colors aren't coming across very clearly. They're a little bit clearer in your package. The ones that are green are the ones that we've done some research on and have a lot of that narrative. But again, that all has to be pared back because it's too much information for a panel. The ones that are in gray are ones that I think are well covered off within the other tours. Whether we look at putting a panel up down the road, we can do that, but at least that information is covered off in the tour and isn't necessarily part of the walking loop that we had previously discussed. And then the ones that are white are ones that still need to have that research and content pulled together so that we can move forward with the panel creation. Does anybody have any questions?
Sorry, I missed. Which were the green ones?
Green are the ones that were done that were circulated previously with the content.
Like the old panels, you mean?
No, they're the ones where there was research that was done and some photos and stuff added in. It's just content, it's not panels.
Oh, okay.
Virginia, like on the Rapids Bowating perspective in Whitefish Island, you say this has been covered off by the other 3 tours, which is fine. I'm just wondering, like we know archaeologically, we know that there were indigenous people here 10,000 years before we got here. And to a large extent, this kind of seems to start at the fur trade era. And I'm wondering if there's an onus on us to do something to recognize that.
I think there is.
Well, see, I'm not familiar. That's really a question because I'm not familiar with everything else that's on all the other tour spots and stuff. But I mean, that's kind of huge. And I think in this day and age, it would be appropriate for us to acknowledge that in some fashion, that and like our own archaeological potential studies that we did here in the city a number of years back, they're quite definite that this has been a gathering place for First Nations people for more than 10,000 years, which beats us showing up here by about 10,000 years. Yeah.
Well, I think even from a practical standpoint, if you're doing the walk, you know, I can't speak for everybody, but that's interesting information. That's the kind of stuff that I'd really be interested in. So we got to consider all audiences, not just the sensitivities, and you know, it's important stuff. And I think a lot of people would find that very, very interesting.
I know there is reference in it under strategic location.
Okay.
In that one panel there. So it does talk about, you know, the importance of it, wadding and the gathering place. And so it goes back to that time when that part was talked about. And again, these are all just drafts of information that was being pulled together they're by no means final as we start to kind of, flesh out what each of those panels are going to look like. So I think the intent is to make sure that that aspect is captured, that, the history of this area goes way back. But yeah, I think you can flesh that out and touch on it in a few places, right? If you're talking about the geology as well as the archaeological and side of it, and then its importance as a location.
I was thinking they might deserve their own panel though.
Oh,
Yeah.
at least.
Just an acknowledgement from us that, yeah, these guys have been here for a long time. And, maybe just a little bit of information about what they did and how they lived. And that's really tricky to
Definitely,
do. That
definitely.
takes some thought.
I think Jamie probably has the most experience on getting that right from having done the heritage calendar recently. Maybe she could give us some pointers on, how I think you had, was it Chief Sayers review it, Jamie?
Yeah, he had the final word on the text of that calendar. And, and I have to say that was an education for me, just listening to him. So yeah, I'd be happy to look at that. You could tie in Etienne Brûlé and, what was that? The pageant of St. Lucian. There's a couple of events that tie into that narrative as well. 1622 and.
Yeah, and I think, Jeanette, correct me if I'm wrong, the on this spot tour, what Batchewana First Nation was involved in helping create that, the content for those on the spot.
That's a good question. I'm not 100% sure.
Because if they were heavily involved in creating that content, one of the spots or topics is, an ancient gathering place, and it talks a lot about that history. So, we may be able to build off of some of the work that was already done, if that consultation was included.
Right.
Now, we have funds to create about 10 panels.
So could I just ask, I don't see geology in this list. Is it included in one of the topics?
I just added it in on my list. We had it before, and it looks like when I transferred it over from our other list to do the comparative, I missed it.
Yeah, I would be interested in seeing the websites and bullet points that Chris had provided.
I could send it to you.
Yeah, because who is doing that geology topic?
I thought Paul was.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do it. Like I say, I'm pulling information off the internet from websites. I'm more than happy to do that. As a matter of fact, I'd even take on Edison Sioux Electric.
Isn't your husband a geologist, Jamie?
Well, yeah, that was what I was thinking.
Then by all means.
No. But my thing for you is that if you take it on and do it, and then, I could read it and see if it makes sense to me,
Sure.
and then I could share it with my husband.
Sure.
For the
Yeah,
science.
okay. Yeah, no, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm curious. It's a interesting topic. I had volunteered to do the Centennial logo one, but are we talking about the Centennial logo, or what is the context of that Centennial topic? Is it like Centennial year in 1967 that we celebrated, or?
Is it the Centennial Library?
Well, that's my hope, actually. That you read my mind, right? Yeah, the library was the Centennial Project, and then also the events that happened that year to celebrate the Centennial year. Is that the content that people were thinking of for that one?
That's how I interpreted it, because it's the Centennial Library is really part of the intended walk. So
Right.
It makes sense that we'd have information on it since it was a Centennial project.
Yeah, and they've got the new garden that's down there, and the the benches. There's a whole area there where this panel would nicely fit. I have actually probably written that panel, but I could share it with the committee if you want. I'm looking for Virginia's guidance in the formatting and the size and what it actually looks like when you're doing the panel.
I think right now, if we can get some of the content and sourcing
I can share
sorted out.
I can share what I have and people can comment on it.
Sorry, I just have a question. You're saying that the funds that we have will create 10 panels?
It would be about 10 panels. We're trying to sort out all the install, hopefully more. It depends on the ones, if they're installed on Bay Street and they have to be installed with a post in the ground,
Yeah.
the pricing for that is a little bit different than if we're doing them on
An
the
existing
waterfront,
railing.
and I can mount them to the existing railing. The cost for those mounting brackets is slightly less. We are looking at doing them in-house, so it could end up being more than 10 panels, but 10 to 15 tops would be the amount that we can get done, and that because we also have to pay for the on-this-spot tour creation.
Right.
So, okay, now I'm getting a little confused because the map that we showed, or that's in the package, it shows a loop from, I believe, the Centennial Library along the waterfront, down to the locks, back along Bay. We walked it and determined that you can't have more than about 50 yards of space between the signs. I don't see how we're possibly going to do this with 10 new signs.
Yeah,
Well-
that was just what I was thinking. Like, I think, yeah, it changes that because I know you were talking about wanting to have a fair amount and it like fairly frequently, but that would not be fairly frequent in a size of a route like that. It would be,
No,
yeah.
no. And we walked it last, I don't know, the coldest day last year. And
The windiest day last year.
yes. And I mean, we all determined, at least those of us that were there, like you can't read a plaque and then walk 100 yards. It's not a walk. It's not it doesn't serve the purpose. So we need frequent signs. And I just don't see how we would, and maybe I'm naive. I thought there was going to be 100 signs. I mean, this is a big route. And if it's a walk, if we're trying to impress people and teach them about the city, and this is the loop, I don't see how you can do it with what we have and 10 new signs.
If we, I mean, for the purposes of trying to at least get something moved along here, prioritize the rankings, and they're going to fund however many they could fund, and they could put in a request next year for the budget for the balance of them, or whatever the case might be. I mean, it's not perfect, but at least it gets us some of the way there, and hopefully we can continue to chip away at it.
Well, I guess, yeah, that's the alternative we have. I just, I misunderstood, I guess.
And I guess the other piece is that you could make them smaller, right? You could put them to a similar size to what's there now. This was looking at mounting them so they were more visible, because the way that they're mounted now along the waterfront, people walk right by them and don't even realize they're there.
Right.
So this was actually to mount them so that they would come out from the railing towards the water, so that it was kind of on an angle like a lot of interpretive panels are. You could shrink the size of them and not have them as big and have as much of the topic on it, and break it into smaller signs throughout and have less content on each sign.
There's also too, like when we first started talking about this, it was the St. Mary's Heritage River Walk, and we were focused more along the river. And then, when we got talking more, it became a loop. So there's also that aspect of, do we have to have a loop? Maybe we just focus on the St. Mary's Heritage River and have the panels along that section.
Yeah. And to your point and to Matt's point, if this is going to be staged, as it sounds like it's going to have to be, then perhaps that's the best solution, is that we focus on doing it right on the waterfront with the intent at some point to expand it so it becomes a loop. That's fine as a possibility. I just want to make sure that, you know, if we're all investing the time in it, that we actually picture someone walking the waterfront and getting something substantive out of the walk in terms of information and learning about our history. I'd rather create something that's worthwhile for everybody rather than trying to force feed something. So if it means cutting out the loop concept for now, I'm all in favor of it.
I think, Paul, financially, I don't think we have a choice,
Yes, I agree.
you know?
Yep, I agree. I agree. Okay. So I guess at this point then, Virginia, we move forward with that idea in mind and look to the next steps here. I mean, do we take this to a vote, or are we still working on the concept? And then at some point we just say, you know, we've got our panel concepts, we know where we want them, what they're going to say, and then we formally say that they are going on the waterfront, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's my question. I'm not sure the process. I'm not sure the procedure right now.
Yeah, and I think, you know, for me, it was trying to make sure we have funding to move forward, because as we get into actually now starting to do the actual layouts of the panels, and, you know, I gave a couple conceptual ideas,
Yeah.
you know, that gets very time consuming as you're, you know, kind of like sourcing, doing the layout, the graphics, and getting it all proofread. It does take quite a bit of time per panel. So I wanted to ensure we had the funding to move forward with that, so that, you know, we're not investing time and then it's put on hold again. As far as the layouts that are there, is that the concept in line with the vision that everybody had? You know, graphical, so there's not too much text, but you're still able to share those tidbits. You know, you don't want them to be too text laden.
That's right.
Jeanette's had a lot of experience with this, so she can also speak to it, and shared some of the Parks Canada information with, you know, how do you create an exhibit or those panels when you're trying to engage people. But it was trying to look at it being, you know, something that's going to be eye-catching. I mean, obviously our colors, you know, we'll do it in a way that it's in line with our branding. But is that, if, you know, if I start to go down that direction, is everybody on board with kind of those concepts?
Can I ask a question here? And I guess it's sort of a process as to like how we move forward from here. Was the intent that we were going to do the design and the writing and the formatting and everything ourselves, or was the intent that we were going to hire somebody to do that? Like hire a graphics design firm to do that? And Virginia, I can see is smiling because we don't have a whole lot of money. But the reality is, I mean, we're going to put this up and it's going to be up for the next how many years? And I mean, there are graphics folks out there that do this type of work. That I mean, that's their job.
Yeah, and we have some really strong staff internally. I guess that's the difference between, but I'm used to working on not a lot of money. And we've, you know, this is the second time requesting, you know, a small amount of funding. You know, it didn't, we didn't get this through the other year at the amount that we requested, right? So, I mean, we've done quite a bit of, you know, being able to pull together timelines and use the graphics. We have the software, I think, that we can do it. I think that, you know, if we were looking at having to hire a firm, and we'd be into tens of thousands of dollars trying to get some of these done.
A couple of things on that. If I could jump in there, Don, I get what you're saying. I mean, I realize he passed away, but Kelly Bueller used to be very good at designing this type of stuff. So I don't know if his position was filled once it became vacant. But he certainly had the expertise level.
Yeah. Kelly did all of our hub trail signage. We were really happy with it. Yeah. He was an amazing guy. Yeah.
He was definitely.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
I was going to say Jordan's very strong.
Okay, so we've got a new graphic designer.
Yes, we do.
And I think what you've provided here, they all look good, those examples. So, I mean, I think if the person who's doing it just, it's different what you would do for an advertisement than what you would do for an interpretation panel. So as long as they do, look at these and maybe do a little bit more research on what makes a good interpretation panel, then I'm sure with their design skills and some examples, they'll be able to come up with something that's appropriate. But you're right that it's less text, more pictures and things with captions, because they say there's like 3 different types of people that come and look. It's the people who'll read everything. That's me. There's the people who are just going to read like the headlines or the captions, and then there's the people who are just going to read the title and look at the pictures. So you kind of have to make it work for all those 3 different types of people who engage with those types of panels.
Yeah.
And I think what, our role will be to, make sure we have the photos that we want. We'll have it sourced out. When I send the stuff over to Jordan, we'll have those basic layouts and the text and where we want stuff placed. And then he'll work through making it pretty and ready for print.
Is it worth meeting with him to kind of sort out what our format's going to be? Like, I have no problems writing something. Am I writing 100 words or am I writing 1,000 words? It would be good to know that. I mean, we need some kind of a standard format that we're going to use as we move along here. So it's almost as if can we mock one up and then that becomes our guidelines moving forward?
See, and I think for me, I was seeing that you're going to have your standard headings and whatever for each of the pieces, but, one may be a timeline, right? So your whole layout is a timeline, like that one example, whereas the other, we may not be able to find, 10 pictures. We may have 4 or 5, but I think we can sort that out. I just wanted to make sure I was, moving along the right line, and then we can do a mock-up of one that we have information for so that everybody can see what that starts to take shape. I wouldn't say 1,000 words, Dawn.
Yeah.
No, there's rules. I sent you some stuff before, Virginia, but I can't exactly remember what I sent, but there's definitely things out there, but like, it has to be like at a grade whatever level, and sometimes like grade 8 level or something like that. There's different ways to write it, and there's sort of different unwritten rules about like how many words should be on panels and things. So I mean, we can find that, and that could be helpful too. But less is definitely more when it comes to interpretation panels.
And photos, right? So I think, a chunk of our time is going to be trying to make sure we have the appropriate photos to go along with it. So, and then having, making sure that they're sourced and we have the rights to print them.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we at now then, Virginia?
So I think next steps, I'm going to work with, I'll work with Chris. So if I'll get him to map out. If we started at the bridge on this map and moved our way down towards the art gallery, I'll see how many panels based off of, 60, 70 meters in between, you start to fit in that stretch.
That would be good.
And then just to give us a bit of a general idea, I'll also get him to mark out where the panels are now. There's not nearly as many of them, but we can have them color code where the old panels were. And then, there may be, depending on location, there may be a different mounting that's required based off of where we put them.
Okay. So in terms of additional research that needs to be done and information that needs to be gathered. Are we going to confirm who wants to tackle what? There's a few items there. Like I said, I'm willing to gather some information on Edison Sioux and the geology part of it, and of course, vet it. Is there any other information that's needed according to the, or volunteers?
I think Paul was gonna do Edison Electric.
Yeah.
We had talked about Bondar Park and its unique design. Don, I don't know if you might have some old photos or stuff that we could add in to something there.
I don't know about photos, but I certainly have the background on that.
If you could add, I might be able to find photos at in our files at City Hall, but if you have some blurbs on the background, that would be great.
Okay.
And I think we have the
So for the-
covered off right now. I can reach out to Will was assisting with the On This Spot tour at the time. I can see who else was on that committee that helped do the Sioux Rapids and see what kind of engagement was there. Because if we can, we might be able to take text that was already approved and written by Batchewana First Nation, if they were involved with it, and just use that again on an actual physical panel, since theirs is a virtual tour.
Sure.
Virginia, sorry, just on that, Tara was involved in from the tourism side on that On the Spot app, so we can connect afterwards, but she may have some of those details.
Perfect. Thanks, Travis.
Okay. And of course, Dawn's going to get us some information about the actual redevelopment of the waterfront.
I can certainly do that. I'm just looking back on the tourism spot stuff. They do have a blurb on about the boardwalk. And, you know, Roberta Bondar Park and Clerk Park, the John Roosevelt Park, all that kind of stuff, which is all good stuff. I'm wondering if we can tap into what they've got so we're not confusing people too much.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, it may be some of those translating into a physical panel at that location when that comes up.
Yeah.
And if we wanted to talk about the art gallery, yeah, they have the tourism spots, like on their walking tour. There's quite a bit on the waterfront, actually. So maybe we can work on making sure that those two mesh together well.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you want the consistent message.
Yeah.
I'm not here.
Spirits Rising is also really interesting how that came about. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess, yeah, I'll work on plotting the locations, and then how soon do we want to meet again?
Virginia, just before we get to that point, so am I correct then? And you're going to be working on that, finding the locations, the distances, etc. Did you say you're going to put together a mock-up?
Yes, I could take one of the subjects that we did some of the research on and try to do like an example layout.
Sure.
And
the
then
reason
I'll
why I ask is, you know, when I'm pulling together the information, just like Donna's going to do and everybody else, if we see what it potentially could look at, like it'll help us gauge what information we can include in our particular topics.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That'd be great. I'm available to meet whenever. I really, my preference would be to meet sooner rather than later, but make sure everybody has enough time to do what they can do. But we did have a long layoff for obvious reasons. But I'd like to get the momentum on this going again and move forward as expeditiously as we can.
The week of March 7th.
Can I make a suggestion? Maybe for our next meeting, can those of us who are assigned to, a task, like for a panel, we'll just do a draft panel,
Yes,
like with the information and stuff for that panel. And then we can get together and see do we like it or not before we do a whole bunch of more work. We just kind of float a couple out there, and, if Virginia can give us some guidance as to what it can look like,
sure.
we can do a couple, and then the group can get together and say, like, do we like this or not?
Sure.
Yeah, I like that idea. We could also have an email discussion. Like I just sent everybody the Centennial one off my computer, and people can just let me know by email whether that is, too many images or too much text, or if they have any questions that come from it.
Jamie, everything, if everybody can just circulate it through me, and then I
Yeah.
can share the information, because we can't do emails because it constitutes a meeting.
Yeah, fair enough. Good point. Okay, so next meeting. Matt, you're suggesting March?
Yeah, March 7th week. I think that gives us about 5 weeks.
I'm fine with that if other people are fine with that.
I'm fine with it as well. Are there any objections to that? It looks like that's the date.
4 o'clock again, is that fine? Do we want to do a Thursday?
I'm easy.
Sure.
You can have it anytime you like. It's all about me.
We've known that for some time, Paul.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know. I felt like I had to state the obvious again.
Yeah.
Thursday, would that be Thursday the 10th?
That would be it.
I'll send out a placeholder right now with the Zoom link, and then we'll do the agenda later.
Okay,
Perfect.
all right, sounds great. Anything else?
Adjournment.
To just Paul.
We need a mover. Do we need a mover?
Also move.
Okay, seconder. Travis is seconding. All in favor? Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.
Everyone.
Virginia, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.